The night sky was heavy with clouds, the city lights glowing dim through the mist. On the wide marble steps of the alien palace, a girl ran barefoot, her ceremonial veil trailing behind her. Her heart pounded fast, louder than the drums that still echoed from the marriage hall. She did not look back. She could not look back. Behind her, voices shouted, guards calling her name with anger. They shouted that the marriage must not be stopped, that the honor of her family depended on it. But to her it was not honor, it was prison. She was being forced to marry a man much older, a powerful leader she despised. She would rather risk her life than be chained to him. Her feet slapped against the stone streets as she ran into the dark city. Every corner she turned seemed endless, every alley too narrow. Her golden dress was torn, her hair tangled, but still she kept running. The glow of alien lamps showed her reflection in shop windows, a bride dressed for a wedding but fleeing like a thief. She whispered to herself, "I cannot go back, never, never." Her people believed a runaway bride deserved punishment worse than death. If they caught her, she knew she would be dragged back in chains. Her hands trembled as she lifted her dress higher and ran faster. Then she heard it, the hum of hoverbikes approaching. The guards had left the palace and were hunting her through the streets. Their voices echoed sharp and cruel, her eyes widened, her chest burned, and she knew she had only moments before they found her. She darted into a wider road, and for the first time that night, she saw something strange. A square yellow vehicle with shining lights was parked at the corner. She had seen many machines, from humans before, but never one like this. The door was open, and inside a man sat behind the wheel. He looked human, his dark eyes curious, his hands resting on the strange controls. For a heartbeat she hesitated. She had been taught to fear humans, to see them as outsiders. But her hunters were already close, their shouts filling the air. She made her choice in an instant. She ran to the yellow car, pulled the door open, and threw herself inside. The human driver blinked in shock as the alien girl landed on the seat beside him. Her breath came fast, her eyes wide and desperate. "Go," she cried, her voice shaking. "Please, you must go now." The human frowned, confused. "Who are you? What is going on?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Before she could answer, the hoverbikes appeared at the end of the street. The riders pointed and shouted, "There she is, stop that vehicle, stop the human." The driver's eyes narrowed, his instincts warning him of danger. The alien girl clutched his arm, her grip trembling but strong. "If they take me, I will die, please, I beg you." Her words were not just fear, they were truth, and he could feel it. For a long second he stared at her, caught between reason and instinct. This was madness, a stranger climbing into his taxi. But her terrified eyes broke through his hesitation. He turned the key, pressed the pedal, and the yellow taxi roared to life. The hoverbikes gave chase, their engines whining like angry insects. The taxi lurched forward, tires screeching on the stone road. The girl held onto the seat, praying silently. The human twisted the wheel, guiding the taxi into narrow turns that surprised even her. She looked back and saw the hunters falling behind, but not giving up. Her heart raced, her breath still shaking. For the first time she felt a spark of hope. This human, this stranger, had chosen to help her. But she knew this was only the beginning. The real danger was still waiting ahead. The taxi engine roared louder, echoing through the empty streets. The human gripped the steering wheel tightly, his eyes sharp and focused. The alien girl sat pressed against the seat, her veil crumpled in her hands, her chest rising and falling fast. Behind them, the hum of hoverbikes grew stronger, their glowing lights flashing like angry stars. The human muttered under his breath, "Hold on," and pushed the pedal down. The yellow taxi jolted forward, bouncing over uneven stones. The alien girl gasped, holding onto the handle above the door. Her voice shook. "They will not stop. They will chase until I am caught." He glanced at her, confusion mixing with concern. "Why are they after you? What have you done?" Her eyes shimmered, not with pride, but with fear. "I refused their marriage. I refused their chains. That is my crime." The human raised his brows but did not slow. He turned sharply into a narrow alley, the tires screeching, sparks flying. From stone walls as the taxi barely fit, the hoverbikes swerved, two crashing into each other while the rest kept chasing. The alien girl clutched her chest, whispering thanks under her breath. The driver's hands moved fast, skillful, each turn sharp but perfect. This was not the first time he had escaped danger on these streets. He was a human living among aliens, and survival had taught him tricks. Now those tricks were the only thing keeping them alive. The girl dared to look back through the rear window. Her heart leapt as she saw only 3 bikes left, but they were gaining again. She turned to him, her voice breaking. "You should leave me. They will not forgive you for helping me." He shook his head firmly. Too late for that now. The taxi shot out of the alley and onto a broad bridge. The water below reflected the city lights glowing like fire. The hoverbikes spread out, one moving ahead to block the way. The human gritted his teeth, his knuckles white on the wheel. The alien girl whispered, "They will kill you. They kill anyone who stands in their way." The human gave her a small, grim smile. "Then let's not give them the chance." With sudden force, he turned the wheel and slammed the pedal. The taxi spun sideways, screeching across the bridge, its side hitting the blocking bike. The bike flew off balance, sparks exploding as it crashed into the railing. The rider screamed as his machine tumbled into the river below. The other two slowed for just a moment, and that moment was enough. The taxi shot forward, racing into the shadows of the city again. Inside the cab, silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the engine and the girl's uneven breaths. She looked at him with wide eyes, her hands still shaking. "You risked your life for me," she whispered, her voice softer now. The human kept his eyes on the road. "I don't even know your name." Her lips parted, and for the first time, since she had fled the palace, her voice carried more than fear. "I am Leora," she said, the name trembling but strong. "Daughter of the House of Vaynar." The human gave her a quick glance, recognition in his eyes. He had heard that name before. Powerful rulers known for cruelty and wealth. And now their runaway daughter was in his taxi. Leora lowered her head, shame heavy in her voice. "They would rather see me dead than free. They call me selfish, a disgrace to their name." The human tightened his grip on the wheel. "To me, it sounds like you just want to live," he said firmly. Her throat tightened, her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not even in whispers. In her world, her life was not her own. But in the eyes of this human, she saw something new. Respect. The streets grew quieter as he guided the taxi away from the central districts. But both of them knew it was not over. The hunters would not give up. The House of Vaynar would not forgive. Their faces would soon be on every scanner, their names whispered in every corner of the city. Yet in that fragile silence something powerful was born. A promise unspoken, a bond made in danger. Leora's trembling hand rested on the edge of the seat near his. She whispered, "You saved me. I owe you my life." The human gave no answer, but the faint curve of his lips told her he had already chosen his path. And for the first time in her life, Leora felt a flicker of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she was not running anymore. She was beginning something new. The city had gone quiet, the chase fading into the distance. The yellow taxi rolled into a forgotten part of the streets where the lights were broken and shadows stretched long. The human slowed the car and finally stopped near an old warehouse. Its windows cracked and its doors rusted. The silence there was heavy, broken only by the ticking of the engine as it cooled. Leora's breathing was still uneven, her hands trembling as she held the veil that once marked her as a bride. Her wide eyes scanned the dark around them, fear of pursuit still alive in every beat of her heart. The human leaned back in his seat, his voice calm though his own chest still rose and fell quickly. "We can't stay on the main roads. They'll be searching everywhere by now," he said. She nodded, her throat dry. "Where are we?" she whispered, her voice fragile. The human shrugged. "A place no one cares about, and that's exactly what we need." He stepped out of the taxi, opened the back, and pushed the heavy door of the warehouse with a groan. Inside, dust floated. In the air like silver powder, The smell of rust and old machines filling their lungs, Leora followed, her small figure shivering in the cold. She pressed close to the shadows, clutching her dress tightly. The human dragged a broken crate closer and motioned for her to sit. She sank onto it, her hands still shaking. The man crouched nearby, his eyes serious. "You need to tell me everything, or I can't help you." For a moment she wanted to stay silent, but then she looked into his eyes. There was no judgment there, no cruelty, only steady patience. She lowered her head, her voice breaking as she spoke. "My name is Leora Vaynar. I was the promised bride to Lord Draven." The human frowned, the name sparking recognition. Draven was whispered about even among humans, a man with power and cruelty enough to make others tremble. Leora's lips quivered, her words spilling out. "He wanted me not for love, not even for alliance, but to bind me as a symbol of control. To own me." Her fingers trembled as she pulled back her sleeve. On her wrist was a glowing mark. Sharp lines burned into her skin like fire. The human leaned closer, his jaw tightening. "What is that?" he asked, though his gut already told him it was not good. She swallowed hard, shame pressing her down. "It is the bond mark, placed during the first ritual. It is proof of ownership, proof that I belong to him." The human's fists clenched, his voice low but firm. "You don't belong to anyone." She blinked, startled by his sudden intensity. No one had ever spoken to her that way before, as if her life truly mattered. Her eyes shimmered, and she whispered, "If I am caught, they will finish the ritual, and my will, my freedom, everything will be gone." The human stayed quiet for a moment, the shadows around them heavy. Then he nodded slowly, his voice steady. "Then we don't. Let them catch you." For the first time, Leora looked at him without just fear. She saw his strength, but also his choice to stand beside her even when it put his own life in danger. A warmth stirred in her chest, unfamiliar but powerful. It was not just survival. It was trust. Maybe the first real trust she had ever known. She pulled her knees, close, wrapping her torn dress around her legs. Her voice was soft when she asked, "Why are you helping me? You could have left me. You could have pushed me away." The human leaned back against the wall, his eyes lost in the darkness. "I don't know," he admitted, then gave her a small smile. "Maybe because you asked, and no one else ever does." Her breath caught, and for the first time in years she let out a small laugh, weak but real. It echoed softly in the hollow warehouse, fragile but alive. Outside, the night deepened, and in the distance faint engines of hoverbikes buzzed, still searching. But in that pocket of shadow, for one small moment, they felt safe. The human glanced at her again, his voice serious. "They will come again, stronger, and they will not stop until they have you." Leora nodded, her fear returning, but her spirit not as broken as before. "Then I will run," she whispered, her voice steadier, "but not alone." The human's eyes locked with hers, and in that silence, a vow was made without words. The hunters were closing in. The danger was growing. But together in the dark, something new had been born. Something that even the House of Vaynar could not control. The night dragged on, heavy with silence. Inside the old warehouse, Leora tried to rest, but her eyes would not close. Every sound outside made her body stiffen. Every shadow made her heart beat faster. The human sat near the broken door, his back against the wall, keeping watch even as his eyes grew heavy. She whispered into the dark, "Do you think they have given up?" The human shook his head slowly, his voice steady. "No. People like them never give up. They want control more than they want blood. And they'll hunt you until they get it." Her chest tightened at his words. But there was also strange comfort. In his honesty, dawn was not yet near when the first sound reached them. A low hum, distant at first but growing. The human stood quickly, his hand gripping the edge of the wall. Leora froze, her breath caught. She knew that sound, the sound of hoverbikes, dozens of them. The human whispered sharply, "They found Us. He grabbed her hand without hesitation and pulled her toward the back of the warehouse. The rusty door groaned as he forced it open, the cold night air rushing in. Behind them, lights flashed as the front door of the warehouse was kicked. Open by hunters, their voices sharp and cruel, their insides spread out. Bring the girl back alive. Kill the human if you must. Leora's heart raced, her grip tight on his hand as they ran into a narrow alley. The air smelled of smoke and oil, garbage scattered across the stone ground. The human guided her quickly, his steps silent but strong. Above them, scanning drones flew low, red beams sweeping across the streets. One beam passed just inches from Leora's face, and she pressed against the wall, trembling. The human leaned close, whispering, "Stay quiet, trust me." She nodded, her fear mixing with trust once again. They slipped into the crowded heart of the market, though it was late. Many stalls still glowed with alien lights. Vendors called out, strange foods sizzling. On hot plates, creatures chirping in cages. To Leora, this place had always been ordinary, but now it felt like a maze of escape. She lowered her head, pulling the human's old jacket around her golden dress, trying to hide. The hunters entered the market from the other side, their black armor shining under the lights. They moved in, formation, scanning every face, their voices demanding answers. "Have you seen her? The runaway bride, the daughter of Venar?" Fear rippled through the crowd. Some turned away, others pointed nervously. The human pulled Leora close, whispering in her ear, "Keep walking. Don't run, don't look back." Her hands shook as she obeyed, every step heavy, her eyes staring only at the ground. Still she could feel the hunters drawing closer, their presence like fire at her back. Her throat tightened, sweat ran down her neck. One hunter's scanner beeped, the red. Light brushing against them, the human acted instantly, knocking over a cart of glowing fruit, the bright orbs rolling across the ground. The crowd gasped, chaos erupting as vendors shouted and people scrambled. In the confusion, he grabbed her hand again and pulled her into another narrow passage. Leora's heart pounded so hard it hurt, but she followed him without hesitation. The passage led to a lower street where the lights were dimmer, the air colder. They ducked behind broken crates, catching their breath. Leora whispered, her voice shaking, "They are everywhere. How can we escape this?" The human's eyes were sharp, his voice low but certain. "They are hunters, yes, but they rely on fear. They think no one will resist them. That's their weakness." Her wide eyes searched his face, finding strength there she had never seen before, strength that did not come from power or weapons, but from choice. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed as hunters broke through the wall of a nearby building. Their shadows stretched long, their scanners sweeping the street. Leora's fear rose again, her whole body trembling. But the human placed a steady hand on her shoulder, whispering, "We will not let them take you." The hunters shouted, their boots clanging against the ground. They were closing in, their formation tightening. The sound of weapons charging filled the air. The human stood, his figure strong in the shadows. He turned to Leora, his voice calm but fierce. "Stay behind me no matter what happens." Her breath caught, tears rising in her eyes. She wanted to argue, to beg him not to fight, but she saw the determination on his face. For the first time in her life, someone was not protecting her for power or ownership. He was protecting her because he chose to. The hunters' lights fell upon them, red beams locking in. Leora's heart raced, fear screaming inside her. But beside her, the human stood tall, unshaken, and in that moment, she realized something powerful. The hunters might take her if she was alone, but she was no longer alone. The alley glowed red from the hunters' scanners, beams sweeping across the walls like burning ropes of light. The human stood firm, his body shielding Leora from sight, his fists clenched though he carried no weapon. Leora clutched the edge of his jacket, her whole body trembling, her voice barely a whisper. "They will kill you, they are stronger. You cannot fight them." But the human did not step back. His eyes locked on the approaching shadows. "They are stronger, yes, but they bleed like anyone else," he said quietly. His words carried no fear, only resolve, and it made her heart pound in a different way. For the first time, she believed maybe strength did not only belong to the hunters. The first hunter stepped into the narrow passage, armor black and gleaming. Give us the girl. His voice growled, harsh and cold. She belongs to House Vaynar. You will not leave here alive. The human lifted his chin, his voice steady. She belongs to no one, and you'll have to go through me first. The hunter snarled, raising his weapon, a glowing staff that crackled with energy. Before he could strike, the human moved fast. He grabbed a broken metal pipe from the ground and swung hard, the sound ringing through the alley. The staff was knocked sideways, sparks flying as the hunter staggered. The human pressed forward, striking again and again with raw determination. Leora's eyes widened as she watched, her breath catching. He was only human, smaller than the armored hunter, weaker by every measure. Yet he fought with a fury that the hunters had not expected. He used the walls, the crates, even the hunter's own weight against him. The other hunters shouted and surged forward, their scanners locking on the two figures. The human twisted the first hunter's weapon free and turned it against them. The glowing staff hissed as he swung it wide, the energy snapping against the nearest soldier. The hunter fell with a cry, armor sparking. Leora covered her mouth. Torn between fear and awe, she had never seen anyone fight like this, not even the trained guards of her people. This man was no warrior by blood or training, but his courage filled every strike, and something inside her chest ached with new warmth. The hunters regrouped, forming a circle, their leader barking orders, "Do not kill the girl, but end the human." The human's breath came fast, sweat dripping from his brow, yet his stance never faltered. He glanced back at Leora, his voice quick but firm. "When I say run, you run, do you hear me?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head fiercely. "No, I will not leave you," she whispered. He gave her a small smile, one that made her heart tighten. "You have to, Leora. Freedom is no use if you don't take it." The hunters charged, weapons flashing. The human spun the staff, blocking the first strike and kicking a crate into another's legs. The alley exploded with chaos, sparks, shouts, and the sound of metal against stone. Leora's body shook, but instead of hiding, she moved closer. One hunter lunged toward her, reaching for her arm. She screamed and swung a loose shard of wood she had grabbed, striking his helmet. It barely dented the armor, but it was enough to throw him off balance. The human seized the moment, slamming the staff into the soldier's chest, sending him crashing to the ground. Their eyes met for a brief second, and the human nodded. "You're stronger than you think," he told her, even in the middle of the storm. Leora's breath caught, a spark of courage igniting where fear had once ruled. Together they fought, human determination and alien desperation side by side. But more hunters poured into the alley, their numbers overwhelming. The human's strikes slowed, his arms heavy, his chest burning. He stumbled once, barely catching himself. Leora cried, "Out!" "No," and rushed to his side, her small hands gripping his arm as if her touch alone could keep him standing. The leader raised his weapon, pointing it directly at the human. "This ends now," he growled, his voice final. The human stepped in front of Leora once more, his body shaking but his eyes bright with defiance. "If it ends with me," he spat. The hunters surrounded them, the red glow pressing in like a cage. Leora's heart screamed inside her chest, yet she stood taller than before. She wrapped her arms around the human's side, whispering fiercely, "Then we face it together. No chains, no cages, no surrender." And as the hunters closed in, both of them stood unbroken. The fight was not finished, the danger not ended, but something had changed in the shadows of that alley. The hunters had come for a frightened runaway, but they now faced something far stronger. Two souls bound by choice, not chains. The night air was thick with smoke and fear. The hunters pressed closer, their armor shining red beneath the glow of their scanners. The human stood with his chest rising and falling hard, the broken staff still in his hands. Leora clung to his arm, her golden dress torn and dirty, her breath trembling but her eyes fierce. For a moment silence filled the alley, the hunters waiting for their leader's command. The leader's voice cut through the dark, low and sharp. "You cannot win, human. She belongs to House Vaynar. Her life is not hers to give. It is ours to take." The human spat on the ground, his voice burning with anger. No one owns her. Not you. Not your house. Not anyone. The hunters raised their weapons again, ready to strike. But then, shouts echoed from the market beyond, vendors and bystanders watching. Whispers rippled through the crowd. The runaway bride, the human protecting her. The hunters froze, realizing too many eyes were now on them. Leora's heart pounded as she saw hesitation flicker across their helmets. They could not kill her here, not in front of witnesses, not without questions spreading across the city. The leader hissed in frustration, waving his men back. This is not over, girl. You cannot run forever, and the human will not survive your choice. The hunters melted back into the shadows, their hoverbikes roaring as they pulled away. Leora collapsed to her knees, her strength broken by the weight of the moment. The human knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders firmly. They'll be back stronger. We don't have much time. She lifted her eyes filled with tears that refused to fall. Why do you fight for me? You could walk away now, live your life, safe, free. His voice was quiet, but steady. I've lived, safe, I've lived alone, and it never meant anything but helping you. It feels right. It feels human. Her throat tightened, the words sinking deep into her heart. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever chosen her without wanting power in return. She touched the glowing mark on her wrist, the symbol of chains waiting to claim her. I cannot go back. If they catch me again, they will finish the ritual. My life will end as mine. The human leaned close, his voice fierce. Then we won't let them. You have a choice, Leora. Freedom or chains, and I'll help you take freedom if that's what you want. Her lips trembled, fear and hope twisting inside her. What if freedom costs everything? My family, my name, my home. He shook his head slowly. A family that sells you, a name that cages you, a home that hunts you, is it worth keeping? The words cut her deeper than any blade, but they were true. She lowered her head, her tears falling onto the cracked stone ground. For a long moment, she stayed silent, the night holding its breath. Then she lifted her chin, her voice soft but filled with fire. Then I choose freedom no matter the cost. The human's eyes lit with quiet pride, a rare smile tugging at his lips. Good. Then let's get you out of this city before the hunters regroup. They moved quickly, slipping, through back alleys, avoiding drones scanning the streets. Every shadow felt like danger, every noise like a trap. Yet with every step, Leora felt lighter, as if choosing freedom had lifted a weight from her chest. She held on to the human's jacket, her trust in him the only anchor she had. At the edge of the city, the walls loomed tall, guarded by towers that glowed with scanners. The human stopped, his eyes narrowing as he studied the defenses. There's a gate near the river. It's old, half abandoned. Maybe we can slip through there. Leora's breath shook. If they catch us at the gate. He cut her off firmly. They won't. They crouched in the shadows, watching. Patrols marched past. The human timed their movements, his sharp eyes catching gaps in the pattern. When the moment came, he grabbed her hand and whispered, "Now!" They darted forward, their footsteps silent on the stone. For a few seconds, freedom was within reach, the open fields beyond the wall visible under the moonlight. But then alarms blared, red lights flashing across the gate. "Run!" the human shouted, pulling her with all his strength. Guards shouted, weapons charged, the chase began again. Leora's lungs burned, her legs weak, but she forced herself forward. Every step was a battle, but every step was also a promise to herself, to the human beside her, and to the choice she had made. She had chosen freedom, and she would not stop now. The alarm bells echoed across the city walls, sharp and cold in the night air. Leora and the human ran hand in hand, their shadows stretching long under the red lights. The gate ahead was half open, the rusted metal creaking as the wind pushed against it. Freedom was so close that Leora could almost taste it, yet danger pressed at their backs. Guards shouted from the towers, their voices carrying through the smoke. "Stop them! Stop the human! Stop the runaway!" Energy bolts cracked. Against the stone near their feet, glowing holes burning in the ground. The human pulled her forward, his voice rough but steady. Don't stop, Leora, no matter what happens, don't stop. Her lungs burned, her legs felt like fire, but she did not let go of his hand. Behind them, hover bikes roared once again, the hunters returning, faster than before. The leaders, voice carried over the chaos, full of anger. She is ours, no human can take her from us. The human turned sharply, pulling Leora behind a broken cart near the gate. Bolts rained down, sparks flying as wood shattered. He pressed close to her, his voice low but fierce. You said you chose freedom, then this is your moment, Leora, take it. Her chest tightened, tears threatening. But if we go through, you will die here, they will kill you. His dark eyes met hers, steady as stone. Maybe, maybe not, but your freedom is worth more than my fear. And I'll fight until my last breath to see you live free. Her heart broke and healed all at once in those words. No man had ever spoken to her that way, not as property, not as a bride, but as a person who mattered. For the first time in her life, she felt what it meant to be seen. Her trembling hand touched his, not in fear this time, but in choice. The hunters rushed closer, their weapons glowing. The human stood tall, gripping the broken staff he still carried, his voice cut. Through the storm, you want her? Then you'll have to kill me first. The hunters snarled, their formation tightening. But the crowd beyond the walls had gathered too. Aliens from the market, vendors, wanderers, even those who had once feared House Vaynar. They whispered. They pointed, their voices rising. Why should she be chained? Why should she belong to anyone? The hunters hesitated, their authority cracking under the weight of too many eyes. The leader roared in rage, raising his weapon. But in that instant, the human struck first, swinging the staff with raw strength. The fight erupted once more, fire and sparks lighting the night. Leora screamed his name, but instead of running, she moved too. She grabbed a fallen weapon from the ground, its glow buzzing in her hands. Fear clawed at her chest, yet courage burned hotter. She swung the weapon clumsily, striking one of the hunters across the arm, forcing him back. Together, side by side, they fought through the chaos. The human strikes were precise. Leora's, desperate but fierce. Each time she stumbled, he caught her. Each time he faltered, she pulled him forward. It was not perfect, but it was enough. Finally, the gate loomed before them, wide now, the open fields glowing pale beneath the moon. The human shouted, his voice raw. Go, Leora, now. She hesitated, only a heartbeat, her chest tight. Then she grabbed his hand and pulled him with her, refusing to leave him behind. They burst through the gate, the hunters too slow to stop them. The alarms still screamed. But beyond the walls, the world opened wide. Grass stretched under the stars, rivers shimmered like silver threads. It was freedom untamed and endless. The human stumbled, his breath ragged, his body bruised, but his smile was real. Leora looked at him, her eyes wet but shining. You fought for me. You gave me this chance. I will never go back, not as long as you are with me. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. You gave yourself this chance. I only helped you find the road. The city behind them still burned with chaos. Hunters still roared in anger. But the night air felt different now, lighter, alive. Leora pulled off the last piece of her veil, the final symbol of her chains, and let the wind carry it away. She turned to the human, her voice steady for the first time. My life is mine. My choice is mine. And I choose to walk it with you. The human smiled, starting the engine of his battered yellow taxi. The machine rumbled to life, headlights cutting across the open road. He glanced at her with a grin. Then let's see where this road takes us. She nodded, her heart steady, her spirit free. And so they drove into the night, the city shrinking. Behind them, a runaway bride, a human driver, and a road with no end. What had begun as escape had become something far greater. The beginning of a story neither of them could yet imagine.